It would be like
Yeah.
old school, like
Oh,
80s
right.
wrestling,
Wild
like
World of Sports. Yeah.
yeah, something like that. The
Yep.
thrill of podcasting and the agony of defeat. All right. Look at that. We got people coming in. Hi, people. This is so cool. I like being live in front of a sort of the donut bag is taped in front of a live studio audience.
Like Norman Lear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome everybody to the Donut Bag Podcast, part of the Sportscast Network. Welcome to everybody joining us live. If you wanted to join in on the conversation, you could join us on our YouTube channel. While you could comment. So and while you're there, please like and subscribe. So, did you see the conference championship games?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and the the Eagles looked fantastic. Washington definitely looks like a team that's up and coming. They had their struggles. You can't do what you do. You turn over like that game they lost the Eagles earlier in the year. They turned the ball over 5 times. So the Eagles look dominant. The Commanders, Redskins, whatever they're going to be called next year, look like a team on the rise. And the Bills and Chiefs were kind of what you expected. It was a great game, a lot of controversy, which we'll probably get to, but I can tell you this: those are 4 teams that are in a much better place than the Steelers are. That's one thing I took away from that.
That's what everybody's saying. I think every Steeler fan was looking at those games and said those teams are light years ahead of the Steelers.
Yeah.
Not even it's not even close. I think the big thing, well, first of all, one team put up 55 and another team put 32. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but when was the last time the Steelers even put up 32 points? We might be looking at the Obama administration.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah. The offenses are so far behind, even the defenses. For some reason, the Steelers decided to just stop blitzing this past season. And on the most pivotal play of the game in the Chiefs Bills game, the Chiefs brought the most awesome blitz ever and caused Josh Allen to make a crazy throw, which he's backpedaling a million miles an hour, just throws a prayer, and it was almost a really good pass. It should have been caught. It's crazy. But
well, and the irony was, and it seemed like this happened this afternoon, I almost got the impression that it was only a few of the media members. I know Kabali was there, Jared Dulac, a couple other guys, you and I know or talked to or have had on the show, and Ray Porter Jr. was in there, and Art Rooney II, which again I differ a little bit on, how much in tune I think he is with the Steelers right now. Talked about how we don't see that there's much of a need for change of coach. That's problem number one. The Steelers' biggest problem is they don't think they have a problem. But then I would say Art isn't touching the fact that they need to fix the quarterback room, and that quarterback room right now is probably more interesting than any room that you or I have in our house or any room of our listeners, because I think is a distinct possibility. The room totally changed last year. We didn't like the wallpaper, so boom, it's gone. Furniture's gone. It's bare. We bring in Wilson. We bring in Fields. And I think there's a good chance, Joe, that, as we keep going here week to week, that 3 weeks from now, a month from now, those two may be gone and we may be an empty quarterback room yet again. And if you look down a list of free agents, as I looked at the show, it's pitiful. I mean, Andy Dalton, Rodgers. I mean, the free agent list out there is horrid. We're talking about career second, third string guys. It's all that is out there. There are no big free agent names on the market other than, unless you want to consider Aaron Rodgers, and he is a walking cancer, and I don't think either you and I hope to see him here.
Rooney's comments were very I mean, they're always interesting, but it's just
a quarterback. So, it seems to me like, we may have an early light at the draft here that, picking 21st, Steelers are going to go quarterback. Well, last time they picked 20th, which is Kenny Pickett, was a disaster, bust. Shouldn't have done that. And so, I don't know, but it seems like that's the issue. He's in tune with the quarterback's room needs to be fixed. And he is right because again, watching yesterday, Mahomes is Mahomes. He's fantastic. Jason or Josh Allen's fantastic. Jane Daniels, rising superstar. We'll see if he does a sophomore slump. I don't see it, but I think he's going to be great. And Hurts is a better above average quarterback. Had a downer year this year, but in the last couple weeks has been steadily improving when you want him to. And there you are in the Super Bowl with him. So those four quarterbacks are head and tails above better than anything the Steelers have. The other rumor mill is now that Russell Wilson may be going to the Raiders, which is where he wanted to go last year before all this stuff started. And now, get hooked up there again with his former coach.
My preference is let's just go with Fields and Russell Wilson on Pat McAfee last week said, "Yeah, I've been talking to the Steelers. We're talking about getting something done. Yeah." And I think I don't know how Steelers fans are handling that, but it's very possible that there's no guarantee that we're going to get Russell Wilson or keep or Justin Fields. There's
no.
What if I heard the Giants are interested in Justin Fields? What you really want to get in a bidding war for that guy?
Only the Giants would be. Only the Giants would be interested in Fields, and that's the thing. Like I like the kid. I do. I since he came here, I thought he's been a nice kid. But everybody keeps saying, well, he can be a poor man's Lamar Jackson. He can be a Lamar Jackson. He's a better. Okay, if he is, why hasn't he been it yet? And I understand Chicago's horribly mismanaged pro team. They're one of the worst managed pro sports teams out there. He came here and he did okay, but I mean, I didn't see it. He certainly looked better than he looked in Chicago, but there was still a lot of running at the wrong time, slid before first down, the turnovers. Right, we talk about that. I don't mean to beat that drum, but before he got swapped out, he had 6 fumbles, and the Steelers luckily recovered 5 of them. So the turn.
Oh, where'd you go? You froze. Okay. Well,
I think I'm sorry, but Lamar Jackson right now is on a whole other tier, and Justin Fields isn't even there at all.
People are saying, yeah, Justin Fields could be the next Lamar Jackson. He could be, we could have our own version of the Eagles if we play things right. Justin Fields could be the next Jalen Hurts. But the thing is, and people that want Justin Fields say, well, yeah, but he improved every year. He got a little bit better in Chicago, still not great, but he did make improvements. He was better in Pittsburgh than he was in Chicago. But as you said, a lot of that was by luck. He fumbled a lot and happened we happened to recover those fumbles. But you're still fumbling, dude. I mean, you're depending on a bounce of a ball.
An oblong ball made of pigskin, as Joffy Jaffer would say. Yeah. So that leaves you're going into the draft. Now, the one thing I will say is this year's quarterback draft class is better than the year they drafted Kenny Pickett. I didn't think that draft class was that great. Kenny Pickett ended up being a bust. And, all the whole, hey, Kenny Pickett's going to the Super Bowl, hail to Pitt thing. Are you out of your minds? He's going to watch it just like we are. He didn't do anything. He's going to go and he's going to go to the Super Bowl as a backup, and good for him. But, and that's the other thing too. If you go down the checklist of one of the reasons that, I've been an advocate of Tomlin being gone for a number of years now is, he has not found a way to replace Ben Roethlisberger. And we have struggled mightily because of that. We just don't have the caliber. We do not have the caliber of a Big Ben.
That is the biggest problems. We haven't had a Big Ben, and we haven't had a superstar. We haven't even had a good quarterback.
No,
for basically the last 3 or 4 years.
Yep.
And it's crippling. It's crippled the team. With Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky, the offense was if you gave it a grade, it would be F.
Yeah.
With Russell Wilson, there was that there was those few weeks that it actually looked like a functional NFL offense. But with Justin Fields, it was almost the same thing. And I think a lot of it has to do with Tomlin. I think Tomlin, the same thing he did with Trubisky and Kenny Pickett, he did with Justin Fields. He basically said, don't you dare make a mistake. Don't you dare turn it over. And if that means being ultra conservative, so be it. But we're going to let the defense win this game, whether we win it 18-16, and not even just kick a bunch of field goals, so be it. But that's how we're going to win. And that's look, you think that's a philosophy of Kansas City or Buffalo or
No.
Philadelphia or Washington? You think they're going to be like, well, we have to be ultra conservative and just kick field goals and not take any chances. If you're going, Fields could be something. He could be a dollar store version of Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts if you let him. But this thing of, well, no, we can't make any mistakes, be ultra conservative. That's not going to win anything. You're never going to advance in the playoffs. You're not even going to win a playoff game if you pull that crap. You have to let Fields be Fields, as me and Allison said last week. Let Fields plow. Let him do his thing. But if you keep restricting, you're never going to get anywhere. And that's on Tomlin.
You're not. And the sad thing is, there's so many problems, and you're going to bring this new kid in or do what you're going.
Oh, we lost
the most sacks of anybody in his position, and number two was our left guard. They were that bad. And, that's the other thing too. I'm thinking Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, even, they're going to sit there and say, well, am I going to be the starter next year? If they're not even going to be the starter, I think Wilson's gone. I think Wilson wants to go to the Raiders. I think it's a decent offensive line. I think he wants to try to ride out his career with his coach, that had so much glory with back in the years. And that would make sense to me. Justin Fields is going to sit there and he's going to say, well, I want to be a starter. That's my goal. Am I going to be the starter here? And they may say to him, yeah, you're the starter. Russell Wilson's gone. We're going to probably draft a kid. That means you're number one. And he may just stay because I don't think there's a team out there, unless maybe the Giants or the Jets, maybe two of the dumbest teams in the NFL besides us, would say, yeah, come out and be our starter. And that's simply where it's at, but then he's also looking at like, okay, I'll be the starter, but I've got this guy, because the Giants are most likely going quarterback too in the first round. I mean, they've got to, after the whole Danny Jones debacle. I mean, you want to talk about the Steelers, messing up with Kenny Pickett. Well, they messed up on Danny Jones a lot more. I mean, Saquon Barkley's doing pretty well, but you decide to pay Danny Jones. Whoops. So the Giants have still got to be reeling over that. So that's the other thing. So, Fields, you're going to bring in, but you're only there until we replace you with this guy. So, in a way, you feel bad for the kid because it's almost a lose-lose situation. The only other partial rumor mill that's out there is Kyler Murray coming here, and that would give me a little bit of hope. I'd rather have Kyler Murray than either of the two quarterbacks we have now. I think there'd be potential there. I think he could bring the offense along. But that's just the thing. I mean, I don't think Steeler fans, I'm not talking about the ones that live in that Yinzer umbrella, that, hey, we finished 10-7, we won, we made the playoffs, everything's good. It's bad. The offensive line is bad. Despite all of the draft picks we sunk into them, they've been horrible. The wide receiving core is even in worse shape. We don't even know if they're going to keep George Pickens. And, that's the other thing, that if you're, Justin Fields and the Steelers do say, hey, we're interested in keeping things, we got to fix the QB room. Brother, you went an entire season without a number 2 wide receiver. That's a problem. That needs fixed and addressed just as much as the quarterback situation. So I don't know, Joe. There's just so many holes and not enough draft picks, and that's the problem. Yeah, win-win. We were not a losing season, no losing season, no losing season. Well, Cowher had some losing seasons. That's the first thing Tomlin people like to point out. But guess what? Because we had some losing seasons, we drafted a guy named Big Ben Roethlisberger. We drafted some other guys that made an impact, came here, did things, and we're picking 21st. So who knows who falls? The only guy in the draft that would excite me to a point, Will Howard from Ohio State would be something I would smile about. I think Will Howard, he's 6'4", he's almost 240, he's eerily Big Ben size, accurate, big arm, not a bad runner. Can be inaccurate at times, but if you give him a decent quarterbacks coach, he might be an okay fit here. Jackson Dart out of Mississippi, not bad either. But those are the only two guys I'd be like, okay. But Will Howard would be the one guy because I don't think Dylan Gabriel's going to make it. And I wouldn't even want Cam Ward. Cam Ward's right now, some people have him over Shadir Sanders. I'm not sold on Shadir Sanders, although he could be good. But, Cam Ward does a lot of things I don't like. Just the tools and everything like that. He carries the ball so high, when he's double clutching it, and the ball tends to sail on him a lot. I don't know, Joe. Will Howard would excite me to a point where we have something, I think.
Another name talked about in the quarterback draft is Jalen Milroe from Alabama. And oh boy, there's a lot. It's going to be a very interesting discussion. He has those physical tools, but it sounds like he did not have the greatest career. And they just measured his hand today, and his hands are small. I can't deal with another small hand.
No,
I cannot. No
small hands. We should get T-shirts. No small hands for draft day. Yeah, I don't know about that one. By the way, draft day could be a lot of fun with being live here. Last year we did it at the live show, but we didn't. Now it could be really fun. Yeah, but no. Yeah, man, I just don't see that at all. And Quinn Ewers is a guy that everyone's so excited to happen, but yeah. So I mean, this quarterback class I think is better, especially look at the top like 7 or 8. I think it's a lot better in the year we drafted Kenny Pickett. I just will Mike Tomlin pick the right guy? Because he hasn't. You can go back to Mason Rudolph, Joe, who remember how that went. We got him in the 3rd round. Unbelievable.
First round grade.
We got a first round guy in the 3rd round. Where's Mason Rudolph now?
Yeah.
We're great. It's so that's what's tough.
But I mean, it's not just the Steelers that mess up on quarterbacks.
No,
it is such a hard thing to evaluate. So you know what? You want the best chance of getting a good quarterback? Keep going. Keep drafting. Draft one every year. Bring them all. Just keep gambling. Eventually you're going to hit.
The Bills are a prime example. I mean, Jim Kelly's done. And think of all the horrible quarterbacks they had there after Jim Kelly left. I mean, okay, Doug Flutie was kind of fun, but Doug Flutie's always Doug Flutie. And then there was like J.P. Lossman and E.J. Manuel. I mean, you could go down the line, the horrible quarterbacks they had until they finally got Josh Allen, which is a tremendous pick, and he's done very well there. Unfortunately, his mark right now is he's 0-4 against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. And last night was, one of those 4. And, but that's where you got to hit on. And that's the problem. We talked about that a couple times, right? Terry Bradshaw, look at the litany of quarterbacks the Steelers went through that were either average, a little above. We went through the really bad years. Then we kind of got into Bubby Brister, who was a decent game manager quarterback. Then we got into the, Mark Malone was horrible. Neil O'Donnell was not bad, but we all remember what happened in Super Bowl 30.
And
Cordell Stewart.
Yeah. And you know what? It took 20 years between Terry Bradshaw and Ben Roethlisberger. And it's just a lot of crap. One thing I thought was very weird, what Rooney said about, somebody asked him about, are you going to draft a quarterback? I mean, you tried with Kenny Pickett and that was a failure. What did you learn about that? And he said he didn't learn anything, which is, he said, I think obviously it's disappointing that Kenny didn't work out to be our long-term quarterback here. I'm not sure there's a lot to be learned from that. We just have to look at the next opportunity to make sure we do a good job evaluating the next time around. What do you mean you didn't learn anything, bro?
How did you not? And that's the thing. I mean, that's what, and I saw, we got a comment there, at least I'm seeing on my end. Tom Risve, Tom, good comment. Nothing's going to change when Mike Tomlin's there. And Tom, you have a very good point on that because, you look at that and you say, guess who was in charge of drafting Kenny Pickett? Mike Tomlin, right? And GM had something to do with it too, but still, Joe, the recent grades are not good in favor of drafting a quarterback that's going to be the next guy.
But do you, okay, no doubt they will draft someone. They'll probably keep Russ or Fields, and then they're going to draft someone. But where do you get him? Do you get him in the first or second round, or do you just wait till, second or third round, fourth round, whatever, just to get somebody? That's the thing. Like, where are we getting this person?
Joe, I think you're talking, but I don't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can. Sorry, I could see you moving the. I saw the Italian thing going with the arms, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you said the last part of that, but.
Well, I said, where do we draft a quarterback? Do we go early? Do we go late? Do we go mid rounds? Where do you think we should draft a quarterback?
That's the thing. I mean, you look at the list, and I'm not sure there's anybody there worth jumping up for. I mean, you could talk me into Shedeur Sanders. He does have a lot of the tools. But then you got to wheel with his dad, and his dad's already out there putting teams out there who are okay. They're off the list. We won't be traded we won't go with the Jets. I forget there's a couple of Giants, the Jets. I'm not sure who else, but he's already putting names out there, and I don't want to deal with Deion Sanders. He's just going to make it a mess. So I think Will Howard could be there. You may have to move up to get him. And this is where I'm serious, where you start talking about unpopular opinion, folks. I'm considering any offer you'll give us for TJ Watt. I love TJ Watt, but at this point, if you want to move up and make that play, that's what you need to do. But to our viewer point there, Tom, the last time they moved up, they wasted a hell of a good pick on a middle linebacker. It didn't work out too well. Devin Bush, wherever you are. And, so that was bad. So you're going to move up. You made a drastic move. The Steelers finally traded up. We said all these years, you never make a move. You never make a move. You never make a move. They finally make a move and it ends up being crap. So that's the thing. It keeps coming back to me for if they do make a bold move, which I don't think is out of the question because Omar Khan's a little bit crazy. But what are they going to choose? Are they going to get...
If you do trade TJ Watt, you create like $30 million in cap space.
Yes, I believe you do.
So
I think you could get. I think you could easily ask for a first round this year and next year.
Oh, yeah.
Or I think you can get a first year, this year, 2 second rounders, whatever. I think you can get a hell of a return. Same thing, in Pittsburgh here we talk, and it's almost like every day because I think was it today or yesterday the Penguins put Malkin on the IR. And I just keep shaking my head and I love Gino. I've got bobbleheads here of him. You should have traded him after we won a cup in 2017. You would have got a lot for your return. Now, the only pitch you can possibly make is because they're not even expecting him back until after the international tournament. The only possible pitch you could possibly make as a Penguin is, hey, we'll give you Malkin. He could be a great third or fourth line center with cup experience on your team, and you're going to get some return. You trade TJ Watt now. you get a return. You trade TJ
Yeah.
Watt 3 or 4 years from now, you're going to get
nothing. Yeah.
You know,
If
so
you traded Malkin 4 years ago, you would have got a lot for him. Now you get
and the Penguins could be in a
peanuts.
much better space than what they are, and they could have gotten some draft picks and finally started building that roster back up that is just not, and that's, big reason the Penguins have struggled the last couple of years. And now the Steelers are really, I think, Joe, in that same spot. Big problem. And literally, no pun intended. The defense has some problems. The only thing it's not a problem is special teams. We got that handled. Kicker's good, coach is good, punter's good. We're good. Other than that, there's a lot of holes. Well, how do you fill those holes? You start getting free agents and you start making draft moves. And that's the thing. Again, I hate saying this because it seems like we're back at, round one. If Mike Tolman is ever to build any credibility back or ever get my vote of confidence back, you start doing it now. This is the year, and I just, and you know what? It's okay if they have a crappy year next year, guys, because guess what? Guess who had a crappy year last year? The Redskins, Commanders, 4 wins. Look where they were this year. Eagles had a pretty crappy year last year. What they do? They go out and get Cooper DeJean. That helped that a hell of a lot. And they got this guy named Saquon Barkley, if you never heard of him. And guess what? The Eagles are in the Super Bowl. So it's okay if they go 5 and whatever next year. I'm okay with that. It won't be fun each week. We're not going to have a lot to talk about other than the Steelers' loss. But it does mean that in 2026 in the NFL draft, we're probably having a top 10 pick if they finish like that. And I'm okay with that too. And that's what you got to get away from, this complacency of, hey, we finished about 500. Yay. No, it's okay. Have a losing season. We'll get over it.
Yeah, that's it. Basically, when Tomlin talked a week or two ago, he basically said nothing's going to change. Rooney talked today. He basically said nothing's going to change. Well, what do you expect? We're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Come on. At least give us some hope. Like nothing's going to change. Not a thing. It's just really scary.
I guess it's frustrating because, you don't want to start comparing things, and I'm sure I know what you do for a living. You know what I do. I mean, even just today, after meeting, I'm thinking, okay, I got to take a different approach on this if I'm going to make this work or make this succeed. And, I kind of do that every day. My wife does that working for who she works with. She has a foundation, but she takes a different approach. So do you. So does, all these other people. And the Steelers just seem to be like status quo, standard is a standard. Well, James Harrison came out, I think it was Saturday, and he said, I don't know what the hell the standard is, but it's not working right now. Yeah, thank you. Also, the cool picture of you and what was it? Brett Keeson with cowboy hats at a rodeo waving terrible towels was the greatest thing I've seen. But that's the thing. Even some of the older Steelers, Joe, are coming out saying this isn't working. The standard isn't working. Whatever the hell it is not working.
People are comparing the Steelers to the Pirates.
Oh.
Basically saying, you don't care about winning anymore. All you care about is making money. God forbid we get rid of Tomlin because we gave him a 3-year, $50 million contract, and we don't want to eat that money.
Right.
We don't want to add any more coaches because we might pay them. We don't want to get rid of any coaches that suck because they're under contract, and we don't want to pay people to not work. What is going on? Hey, whether that's true or not, the perception is it sure seems like they're just in it for the money and not for winning.
I agree with you to a point but I think that the other thing too, and I've been saying all along, is I don't think Art has his finger on the pulse like Dan did, and that to me is just like, he said that and he's not wrong, but it's also like there's a lot more you need to be right about that you're just not seeing. And giving Tomlin that contract was one of them. You never should have given him the contract because, in the way I point that out, and I think was very glaringly evident, because, a year ago, you and I are talking about the season-ending Tomlin press conference. And even our fellow and local media guys are saying the same thing. Never saw Tomlin like that. Emotional. Uh, maybe the strangest, maybe the most transparent interview he ever gave in that. He was emotional. He talked about failing Marquise Pouncey. He talked about, being pissed as failing these last couple years. This year, same
Yeah.
old Mike Tomlin.
Yeah.
And that, why? Because he has $50 million in his bank account. That's
Right.
why. And that's why, to me, I keep going back with you. You never should have given him the contract because, again, hey, no problem. I can mess up. I'm good in the next 3 years, going to get, a lot of money. And
Yeah, because when he did that a year ago, he didn't have his contract extension yet.
No, and that's the other thing too. You see what Rooney said, and Rooney was like, we need to hold, feet to the fire. There needs to be consequences. There needs to be all this stuff. And you're thinking, okay, Art the Second is growing a set. Okay, and then it just feels like
and
this past
and
week,
today, nope, it's okay.
Yeah, might as well be 2022 again or 2021, and we're just in this quagmire. Not quagmire is not the right word. We're just in this rolling, thing. It's 360. It's the same old. And I don't know. I think the draft show this year will be a lot of fun that we do this year because, as we get closer, we're going to start taking a look at who might take who. There's some big offensive line needs from a lot of the teams in front of the Steelers. I'm sure they'll be going. Not a great running back class. Steelers also need wide receivers, Joe.
Yeah.
I mean, they need wide receivers in the worst way.
And defensive line.
Wide
receiver, defensive line, cornerback is what they need. Running back, by the way, there's just Jaylen Warren right now. It's going to be very interesting. But, we talk about the offensive line, and it's very scary because it seemed to take, I don't want to say it seemed to take a step back, but it's just not good enough. And people say, well, that offensive line coach Pat Meyer should be fired, and you say, just for the overall overlap play of the line. But to his credit, and I don't know whether you could credit for him for this, Zach Frazier stepped in as rookie, did very well.
Yes, he did.
McCormick stepped in as rookie, did very well. And what you're going to have is basically Dan Moore is going to leave, and he's going to be replaced by Broderick Jones. And then Fawatano is going to come in on the right tackle. So in theory, you're not going to have any changes to the offensive line other than Fawatano being added, and that's very scary. And basically, the things I'm hearing about Broderick Jones, bad. It's bad.
It's bad.
We might be looking at a bust.
It's like an Aaron Jones, or I'm trying to think of the guy, Joe. It's escaping me. I think he has the distinction. Only other first round draft pick that was like that. But yeah, I mean, that's a problem. The free agent wide receiver list is a hodgepodge. T. Higgins is obviously number one. Now there's talk he might go back to the Bengals. I feel the Bengals will offer him something, but they also got to sign. They also got to lock up Chase. They have a problem there. Unless the Bengals are going to open up the bank, which they traditionally haven't done, I don't see T. Higgins staying there. Now the Steelers are going to have a hell of a lot of coin to spend. That's the one thing. Would they go for T. Higgins? Here's the other thing, Joe. They can flash all the money they want at T. Higgins, but T. Higgins is going to look at that quarterback room and be like,
exactly. Why would anybody want to come here?
Why would I go from Joe Burrows to nobody?
Yeah.
Or a rookie. And I mean, so then, but after that, to me, it's a pretty far drop off. You got Chris Godwin, who's,
coming off a huge injury.
And then you have Amari Cooper, who honestly, I was wrong. I thought the beginning of the year, man, I wish we would have got that guy, but he didn't do a lot for Josh Allen. I mean, I think the Bills were expecting a lot out of him, and they got nothing. Yeah. And he's going to be 31, right? So those are three. And then you go Stephon Diggs. I don't know.
Devontae Adams, I think would be interesting.
But here's the thing: the Steelers could have gotten DeAndre Hopkins. They could have gotten Amari Cooper. They could have gotten Uh,
Jerry Jeudy, remember that?
Jerry Jeudy, and all those guys were under $3 million, and they didn't make a
Yeah.
move to get any of them then. So again, I go back to that was your plan. What was plan B? Whatever it was, it sucked. So yeah, I mean, they have a lot. They have honestly, they have a monumental task, Joe. They have so many holes to fix on a sinking ship right now, and I don't know if they have enough to fix it.
It almost makes me wonder if they should just lean in on the running game thing and just say, okay, let's just be the old school Ravens, and Justin Fields is our Lamar Jackson, and we'll just get a bunch of blocking wide receivers,
Right.
and screw it. We're gonna go back to the wing tee or the single tee or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
I'll
never
run
forget,
the option. Yay.
I'll never forget, and I was covering Penn State football, and it was like this. It was bad. It was when there was those early 2000 years when they were losing like 9 games, which was unheard of back in the day. And they went to a 3-back set. And it was like 1940 again. It was Omar Easy. Oh, come on, Darren. It was Omar Easy, who was like a big kind of fullback, running back kind of a guy. I forget the other gentleman's name, and it was a very, very young Larry Johnson, who obviously went on to, have a 2,000-yard season a few years after and be a big star in the NFL for a few years. But it was like, wow. I mean, are we watching this for real? I mean, it was bad. And yeah, I mean, they go a 3-back set and that's the other thing. We didn't get to running backs yet. And, I don't think Najee Harris is coming.
No. Najee's not coming back. Why am I not seeing?
Honest, I don't think you take Jaylen Warren, put him on a lot of other NFL teams where he'd be some stud running back. So, that's a hole you could plug, and maybe that's what you do. Hey, Jaylen Warren's our guy for next year until we can get a better guy. And that might be the stuff they got to start looking at, Joe. It's like one of those games where you have to move the things around and shuffle it around like one of those puzzles you got as a kid. Remember, you got to make a picture of a duck, and it's all mixed up. And,
move all
you got to move all the tiles around and figure it out. But I mean, that's the thing. That was kind of tough making a duck, but you had to be semi-intelligent to do it. And that's the thing is Mike Tomlin and his staff. And that's the other thing I see. I'm glad you still have the Rooney comments up. It seemed that he indicated there's going to be some coaching changes, not on Tomlin, obviously, but it looks like there could be some guys let go. Who? I think the scapegoat is definitely gonna be our defensive coordinator.
Which is ridiculous because really that's on Tomlin.
Yeah,
you know what? I don't know if maybe Terrell Austin will be gone. Maybe he won't. But what I would like to see is basically another coach, a consultant, somebody brought in to bring in some. You gotta blitz. You can't just say, "Oh, we don't need to blitz. We have a strong line." Blah blah. It didn't work. That's the thing. Whatever the Steelers were doing in the early season, it was working. The defense was doing well. And guess what? The teams did this crazy thing. They looked at what the Steelers did and they adjusted to it. And did the Steelers adjust back? No, they kept doing the same thing over and over again. Good job, guys. Yay!
Yeah, and that's just what the definition of insanity, right? And that's just the thing. It's just the never-ending cycle where you cannot seem to break away from this. Remember, we used to be Blitzburg, we used to be the Blast Furnace, we used to be all these great things, and I've said this for weeks now. The Steelers have no identity. They have no identity. We don't have a great receiving core. We don't have a great quarterback room. Our running game's kind of stinky, and our defense, just flat out stunk the last half of the year. We have no identity. We're the Pittsburgh Steelers, and here we are.
In name only. We're just going off a reputation.
Yep.
And it's not reality. And
and you tie that in with the Eagles. And one of the things you heard about the Eagles and even the Steelers locker room afterwards when they lost was how hard they hit, how good of a tackling team they are. And look where they are because of that. And if they are able to beat the Chiefs and the officials on Sunday, I think a lot of it might come down to that Eagles defense. Might finally, be able to find a way to silence Mahomes and that offensive line and take care of business. But that to me, the Eagles have an identity. It's Saquon Barkley. It's a hard-hitting, physical, well-tackling defense.
And a ferocious defensive line that comes at you in waves.
Yes. A very good defensive line. A defensive line that they change in and out. A lot of people don't realize that. They change that package out quite a bit. The Eagles will go from man to cover one and switch the defensive line up. Yeah. And the Redskins, they didn't know what to do, but they got far behind. When you do that, you get ahead of a team like they did yesterday, it was over. Yeah. Like my wife and I watched the game, and when it was up 21 to whatever it was, I said, "This is done." They got these guys.
As soon as Washington was starting making mistakes, like we're done.
Yeah,
good.
That's exactly right. And you look at it comparatively. I know you're a Pitt guy. You look at the Penn State guys, right? And Penn State went out today, and officially they brought in Knowles. They needed a defensive coordinator, so Tom Allen goes to Clemson to be closer to his family. Former head coach at IU. They had pretty good defenses when he was there. He comes here. Penn State had a pretty good defense. Now he goes to Clemson. They need a defensive coordinator. They could have promoted within, and yes, they could have done those things. What they do, they went out and got the baddest man on the planet and paid him a hell of a lot of money to do it, but they're in it to try to win it. Yeah. Right now, whether Penn State's going to, come, Penn State has other issues too. They have no wide receivers, just like the Steelers. It's like watching.
But at least the quarterback came back.
The quarterback came back. They have, 2 1,000-yard rushers coming back. They have a lot of guys coming back. So they went out and got a guy that can make that defense great. And that's what I'm saying with the Steelers. Like, go out and make some damn moves that can make an impact on this team. And again, I don't care. They don't have to go win a Super Bowl next year. It'd be great. I'm not going to deny a Super Bowl. But go out and bring some impact players, fight hard.
Give us hope. Just give us hope. Yeah, we don't have to win the whole thing, but we just need some hope. And now it's hopeless. There was 2 seasons ago that was the Kenny Pickett Matt Canada disaster, and Mason Rudolph came in those last few games and saved the season, and they made it to the playoffs. So they ended on a strong note, even though they lost in the playoffs. I think the season before that, it was the same thing. It's like you were kind of weren't sure they were going to make the playoffs, but then we ended strong. This past season, we could not have ended worse. 6 losses in a row. It's bad.
And that's what I'm saying. That's why I keep bringing up the Eagles. The Eagles knew what the problem was. A big problem was their defensive back were horrible last year. So they go get a guy who I really wanted the Steelers to get in Cooper DeJean. And immediate impact. He's up for Defensive Rookie of the Year. He probably will win it. He's got one other guy competing with him, but he has a strong chance of winning that game, winning that title. And that's the thing. Like, we seem to know when to draft Rod Woodson. We seem to know back in the past when to draft Troy Polamalu. And I don't know what they're going to do. And it just, whatever they are doing, the talent that evaluates it is missing. It's missing big, Joe. The last couple draft picks have been awful. Mike Tomlin's draft record over the last 10 years is horrible. It's not good.
If you're not getting it done in the draft, you're kind of screwed. And
or free agency.
Or free,
And okay, I liked Patrick Queen. I thought that was good.
He didn't make the impact I thought he would.
No, but I think, given time, I hope, I think he could, and he showed a little bit of better. He showed better play as he went on, but again, not the impact player we thought he would be.
I think they should use him to blitz more. I think he would be a really effective.
What's that, blitzing? We didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. About the Chiefs game, I love that we've progressed in the field of AI enough that we can make pictures of Patrick Mahomes making out with the referees. I'm so glad that we're using this technology in such a wonderful way. I've seen so many refs and Chiefs pictures. But man, they were the beneficiary of some horrible calls,
a lot of them,
including that damn fourth down Oh, I just can't believe
And
it.
why you let the high referee, why you let the far side referee make that
From
call,
all the
not the
way
near,
over,
not the near
yeah.
side judge. I don't know if my buddy Bill Spangler's watching, but I mean, near side judge should make that call. The head referee should go with the near side judge's call on the sideline, and he didn't, and he had to clear better shot. That was bad. That 4th and 1, there was no catch. With the game, with the one play either. I mean, it was the calls were just laughable, and I don't see, when I got up this morning, I looked on Twitter, and my friend Bob picked up on the same thing, who does for WPIC radio. The number one trending thing this morning between like 9 a.m. was rigged. And if you're the NFL, hey guys, that's not good, because it's not a conspiracy theory. It's actually fans that are legitimately pissed off. And I really don't have a stake in a game. And we live close enough to Buffalo up here where you're kind of rooting for the Bills. I think a lot of people are rooting for the Bills just because of the tragic Bills story. 4 Super Bowls, 4 losses. Now, I mean, it's just it's so sad. And Josh Allen looked so dejected yesterday after the game. But it was horrific, the play calling in that game. And the guy that's going to, I'm trying to think of his name. I want to say his name's like Sam Tolbert. The guy that just got appointed the head referee for the Super Bowl is the same one in that Bengals game when they got the 3rd and 9 and they let him do a do-over. And then there was then they let him redo the do-over, and then they got the first down. And it was like, and that it's not just yesterday. It's weeks before I forget the game before. Even Tony Romo said, the league and players are getting tired of it because, Mahomes went out of bounds and fell down like he got shot.
Right.
And they got a 15-yard penalty. And I saw the joke, he wears 15 on his jersey because that's how many yards you get when you touch him. Which, I mean, it's just, you and I had no dog in that fight yesterday, but I'm sitting there, I'm like, this refereeing is horrible. It's horrible.
Every team that plays the Chiefs, they say, yeah, we got to play the Chiefs, and we got to play the refs too, and that's just part of the game. Like, come on, you got to be kidding.
Oh, and then there was the one tackle for the Chiefs had that guy like the Cobra Clutch, and he looked like Sergeant Slaughter. He had the Bills Russo in a Cobra Clutch, and I mean and there's Mahomes. It's you're seeing all this stuff on social media. They're not going to watch the Super Bowl and stuff like that, which, I don't know. I believe that or not.
Yes, you are.
You're going to watch the
Super Bowl. You're not going to watch the Super Bowl. Yes, you are.
Yes, you are. But I'll tell you, I mean, the NFL's I would think you got to pull these guys aside and say, hey, look, next week or 2 weeks from now, you guys better call this clean.
Get it right. Come on,
because it's just.
Here's a crazy idea, and it's already been done in the USFL or whatever. You put a chip in the ball that you don't have to worry about, some referee 50 yards away trying to figure out a thing.
Right.
It's right. I mean, the technology is there. It's just ridiculous. I can't. I just
it is.
It's funny that people say, oh, it's rigged. It's rigged. It's like, I don't know if they're competent enough to rig something like that. It's just so bad that it seems like it's rigged, and it's a bad image problem.
And I don't want to take anything away from the Chiefs. I don't have a problem with the Chiefs. I think the fans are fantastic. I think the passion's great. In fact, I've always said this, especially looking at the other teams, the Bills in Buffalo, Kansas City's home field, even Baltimore's home field. I think they're a hell of a lot louder than they are at Heinz Field. I really do.
It's
a better atmosphere. It's a better atmosphere. We haven't had a better atmosphere since, really, Three Rivers days. I mean, like I said, I remember being there for the AFC Championship when Troy picked off, Flacco and ran it back, and it was very loud. But it's not like constantly loud.
Just the acoustics of like the design of the stadium is not good for it being for the sound.
Right.
Because I remember like you said, Three River Stadium was loud as hell. It was an all enclosed thing.
Yeah, and you're like covering your ears but no, I mean, so the Chiefs are definitely in a dynasty. And if you look back, everyone hated dynasties, right? We hated the Patriots. You hated the 49ers in the 80s. You hated the Cowboys in the 90s. But you hated them because, they were great teams. Yeah. I don't remember, obviously, the Patriots, yes, they cheated a lot. And that will forever, especially for Steeler fans, stick in our craw. Because they legit filmed the game and everybody knows it, and everybody knows they cheated. So that's bad. So I don't want to say I can't remember last time, but the Chiefs are in a different way. It's just it's like you said, it's blatantly obvious that you're sitting there watching something going on, and it's not right.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about those previous dynasties that you mentioned, they dominated at times. It was clear they were the number one team.
Right.
The Chiefs just barely win every single game.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah, you won, but like, it's just it's just such a coin flip that like easily the Bills could have won that game if a couple of things went their way.
Right. It's not like the 70s where you had the Steelers, the Raiders, and the Cowboys, and then you had the Vikings had their thing, but they just could never win a big game. And I mean, those were clearly probably the four best teams back in the 70s, but they indeed dominated through most of those 70s and through those games, and they led to some. I still say the Steelers and or Cowboys Super Bowls in the 70s were the best. Yeah. The Rams game, you obviously remember we were down, then we came back and went up. But yeah, Joe, I think it's a great point because the Chiefs are barely winning and barely getting by these games, and they almost lost to the Carolina Panthers for God's sakes this year.
Yeah.
They whipped our butt, of course, obviously.
Yeah. That was the only blowout win.
I think the only blowout all year. Yeah, they blow out the Steelers. So, hey, the Super Bowl is going to be a good game. It's against two good teams, and I'm going to watch. I'm sure you'll watch. But, yeah, I mean, it's getting blatantly obvious. Like, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah. It's just, you know what? We said the exact same thing about the Patriots. Tom Brady gets all the calls. It was the same thing that's saying about Mahomes. Like, oh, you can't touch Brady and stuff like that. So it's like, I guess it's just human nature. We just go toward the, whoever's the champ. Ric Flair said, to be the man, you got to beat the man. Yeah. I feel for Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. I feel for those guys because they may never win a championship because they just happen to be in the same era as Mahomes. Now, it wasn't just Mahomes. It's that dang defense. And Steve Spagnuolo might be the greatest defensive coordinator of all time, maybe besides Dick LeBeau. But But Spagnuolo, if he's smart, if some team is smart, they'll grab him as their new head coach, and I hope so. Take that dude away from the Chiefs so that the rest of the league can have a chance to win the damn thing.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's a good point. I mean, has this defense ever been as good since Dick LeBeau left? And the answer is no. The answer is no. And yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We go back to that Mike Tomlin coaching tree that doesn't really exist. And I think Mark Cabali earlier this week said, I think coaching trees are overrated. And I said, I think you're out of your mind. I mean, Brian Johnson's going to go somewhere. He's done a great job with the Lions. And, Dan Campbell got together and said, hey, I need a good defensive coordinator and a good offensive coordinator, both that know equally or more than I do. And that's the problem with Mike Tomlin. He won't bring anybody in. His ego's so damn big. Exactly. He won't bring anybody in that possibly knows more than he does.
Exactly.
And you look at, like, again, I'm not going to say Penn State's going to win a national title next year. But, James Franklin obviously saying, you know what, I'm going to bring in a defensive coordinator who knows more what I'm doing, and he's going to be paid the highest defensive coordinator in the country. That's the kind of effort you need to see. I mean, go get a guy and bring him in and pay him the money. But the Steelers aren't going to do that.
The Eagles, in addition to having superior talent, also have some really good coordinators. Vic Fangio is one of the best defensive coordinators in the league, and then I think his name is Kellen or something like that. Yes. He might be a head coach pretty soon. So Sirianni, to me, is a clown and a jackass. He looks like an idiot, but they're smart enough to have really good coordinators.
Right.
The Steelers, no.
Right.
No.
Well, that you go back to, like we were talking about, those dynasties, right? And you think of Jimmy Johnson. Well, he was a pretty good coach. We had Norv Turner and Dave Wannstedt, and they did a great job together. Yep. Now, I don't think Norv was a great, he was an okay head coach. He seemed to win a lot, but he was
a great
better
offensive coordinator.
He was being an offensive coordinator, yes. And those three together brought the Cowboys 3, Super Bowl trophies. Also, by the way, they made a massive trade with Herschel Walker that ended up being great. And you go back to that one, right? They traded Herschel Walker. Guess what? They traded that all away. They got Troy Aikman. They went 1-15 that year. They were horrible. But guess what? That led them to drafting guys like Irvin and Emmitt Smith and Leon, or not Leon Lett. Leon, that was bad. I'm trying to think of the Dallas lineman that was just phenomenal. And he's a Hall of Fame. But that's the thing that, sell the farm, rebuild the team. But again, look who's rebuilding it.
So TJ Watt might be our Herschel Walker.
He could be. There's going to, obviously, that's the thing. I don't want to say that. I can't bemoan the Steelers too much, but there's some teams that would do some stupid trades for TJ Watt.
Oh, yeah.
Stupid. The Cardinals would probably sell, half the franchise and, probably give away
TJ Watt for Kyler Murphy. Boom. Kyler Murray. Boom. There. We just figured it out.
Plus 4 first-round draft picks and the deed to the Phoenix. They probably do it.
And I want sunshine included in the deal.
Anybody from Pittsburgh gets to go to the Scottsdale Open free for the next 30 years. Or how about like the Bob Nutting? Let's give the kid from California lifetime seats behind PNC Park for 30 years. They live in California. In California, and you're going to offer the kid 2 30 years worth of. You really want to watch this Pirates suck for another 30 years? And you live in California. He's as out of touch as Art Rudy II is.
Are you going to include the airplane, the airfare for all these tickets?
Right.
Or what
so again, the Vikings it was the Vikings that gave up all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, some team would be stupid and give up all kinds of stuff for TJ Watt. And we say, we say, oh,
they're going to come up and say, yeah, sure. What do you want?
Yeah. Yeah. They asked Rooney about that today about, he's like, well, TJ Watt is in the last year of his deal. Or what are you going to do? He's like, well, we'd love to have him or something like that. What if TJ Watt says, I want $50 million a year or some crazy number like that? What if negotiations break down? Then we could have a trade.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the sad part. Like if the Steelers would have rebuilt properly, if they would have drafted wisely, if they would be a team that's on the cusp, then the TJ Watt talk we're having now is nuts. But you are now in a desperate time. You're a desperate team with desperate needs. That's why I'm advocating for the TJ Watt trade. Not because I don't like TJ Watt. I love TJ Watt. I'm not a big jersey guy, and I have a couple Francos things, Penn State and Steelers. And my dad and I were on a game. I said, there's a jersey. And this was TJ Watt was like a rookie. I said, there's a jersey I would wear. It'd be a TJ Watt jersey. And of course, moms and dads being who they are, I had a TJ Watt jersey for Christmas that year. And I still have it. I love TJ Watt. But now, that's where the Steelers are, Joe. It's desperation time. 10-7, forget about it. But that's where they are. And they got to do something drastic to fix this. And you got to hope that Mike Tomlin can help ride the helm right. But that I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer today, folks and viewers, but
the only end we have in sight is when Tomlin's contract is over, is up again in 2 years. And then we could say, okay, are you going to renew him again? Are we going to go through this crap again? Or are we actually going to do something different for once? I don't know, but we're stuck like this for the next 2 years, and you just hope. Rooney was asked about Tomlin today. He's like, how could we get rid of him? He's won all those games.
Oh, God.
What are you doing?
That's what I mean.
What
He's out of touch.
Doing?
Yeah. And this is the thing. If you want to rebuild, you need a fresh aspect. Now's the time to buy out Tomlin's contract and say, arrivederci. And you bring in a Brian Johnson, or you go and get a Steve Spagnuolo. Whatever you're going to do, that's what you go do. Bring in a coach from Notre Dame, whatever. Go get somebody to have a fresh perspective on the fresh perspective you need, because the perspective you've been using for the last decade sucks.
And you know what? You might fail. you might get a coach that
Yeah.
sucks. Oh well, so you're like every other freaking team, but no, we have to have our little circle jerk about 3 coaches in 50 years. Oh, look at us, we're stability.
Yep.
You know what the Eagles do? The Eagles had Andy Reid, who is arguably one of the greatest coaches of all time.
Hall of
He
Fame.
wasn't doing it. He wasn't winning in Philadelphia. They got rid of him. Then they had a couple other people, and they failed. Then it's a Chip Kelly that sucked. Now they have Sirianni, who was I don't know who was
Chip
the coach
Kelly worked
before.
out pretty well for Ohio State as an OC, that's for sure.
There you go. But there was I forget who was the coach when they won the Super Bowl. When they beat the
Peterson.
Doug Peterson. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they got rid of him. And you know what? If
Now they're back.
If Sirianni lost to the Rams last week, or if he lost yesterday to Washington, they'd fire him today.
Yeah.
They have because they're committed to winning a championship, not this wonderful notion of, look at our franchise history and look at our standard and all this other crap. They just want to win. And they've been to 3 Super Bowls in the time the Steelers haven't even won a playoff game 8-10 years ago.
Yeah, I love everything you said there. And the other thing you look at too is, you want to see a change. And I laughed so hard on Saturday when apparently Dan Snyder, eating over in London, eating lunch, said he hates the Commanders' success.
Yeah.
Yeah. After, 24 years, they had 2 playoff wins. And now they've had 2 playoff wins in 2 years under new ownership. Folks, sometimes you just need it. And I've always been a proponent, and I will agree 100%. If Mike Tomlin, if they did it, let's say they do it. Okay, Mike Tomlin, tomorrow's your last day. Let's say he goes to the Giants, right? I guarantee you he probably gets the Giants to a winning record of playoffs, because I just think that happens. You have a new coach, you go to, and he has good experience. We can't argue that. He goes, he takes the Giants, he gives them, he probably gets them playoffs. Now, you're not going to go much further in the first round. They tell you, Big Blue. You're not going much further than that, but he'll turn that around and he'll look like a savior and he'll win NFL comeback coach of the year, and we'll all be laughing at him because you don't know what's coming next. 10 years of averageness. But that's what happens. Also, we bring in a new guy and we have success, and the sky's the limit. But that's why that's where my I guess, not depression. That's where I am sitting right now with not a lot of confidence, because we are in a rebuilding process, and you're going to bring the guy that hasn't been able to get crap done since 2009, and that's who you're going to have lead this. This is where the wake-up call should be now. Get rid of Tomlin.
Chuck Noll is one of the greatest coaches of all time and one of the most successful coaches of all time. And in the 70s, the Steelers rolled, and in the 80s, they were not so good. And by the time Noll was done in the late 80s, it was very obvious that his message was stale. It was not working. As soon as Bill Cowher comes in, as soon as they bring in someone new, someone young with fresh ideas, boom, instantly they start going to the playoffs again, because you have a different perspective. And so when you say things like, well, we can't get rid of Mike Tomlin because he wins so much, but it's the same thing over and over again, the same philosophies, the same conservative approach. That doesn't work. You can't even win a playoff game. But you're doing the same thing over and over again, and you're fine with that.
The Bengals finally got it. After all those years, they finally got it. They bring in Zach Taylor, and they go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Now, the Bengals are in a very interesting position right now. They just hired a couple defensive coordinators today. They know what the problem is there. They're going to try to address that defense, because I'm going to tell you now, you give Joe Burrows, you bring in Chase back. If you are able to bring T. Higgins back, you have an offense that could beat any one of these teams that are with the last 4 teams standing yesterday, and I think you could compete with the Eagles or the.
You put a defense on that team,
yes,
oh boy,
they're going to be good, and right now the Bengals are they finished below the Steelers. They're in a better spot than we are. Don't look at the record, look at where the progress is, because right now, guess who beat Patrick Mahomes? Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, not Lamar. Not Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. given a chance, I think Joe Burrow would do it again. And I still think there may be some validity to that whole thing where the Bengals rested their starters and the Chiefs rested their starters, and that screwed the Bengals over because nobody wanted to play the Cincinnati
Right.
Bengals in the playoffs.
Right.
Everybody wanted to play the Steelers. Nobody
Yeah,
wanted to play the
exactly.
Bengals. Nobody wanted to play the Bengals. Yeah, you'd score 30 on the Bengals, but they could score 38 or 42 on you.
I just feel for the Bills. You know,
Oh,
in the 90s, at least they lost in the Super Bowl. Now they can't even make it to the Super Bowl. Man.
it's so, and where we live closer to. In fact, our grocery stores up here carry a lot of Bills stuff. They have like Josh Allen cereal and stuff like that, and whatnot. But it's this heartbreak. I have a lot of friends that are Bills fans, and I just spent the last night texting them. Sorry, man.
Yeah. I have a lot of friends.
Sorry,
friends that are Bills fans too. And I just feel for you. It's just so tough. And I feel for that tight end. He should have made that catch. It was a little tough, but he still should have made that catch. But man,
I think you tagged me in that post today, and he was about 3 yards to his left, and he had to come back and readjust. And he is a tight end. But yeah, Joe, I don't disagree. I think he could have had and should have had that catch, and he was emotional too after that game.
I'm sure.
Right? And
I'm sure.
Man, the Bills just have a litany of that. So,
and the wonderful thing about the Bills fans is anytime somebody is going through some kind of hardship or something bad happened to them, they rally behind that person. Mark Andrews, who lost the game for them against the Ravens the week before, they poured money into his charity to show support for him. They're just so supportive, and I love that about that fan base. That's Bills Mafia is awesome.
Bills Mafia is awesome, and the Steeler fan base is great too. And I'm not trying to say that we are, but it's just. I think you'll see the Boo Birds out again next year, like you saw 2 years ago. And it's such a cluster, and there's so much that needs fixed, Joe. I think my anticipation, if you're going to ride with Mike Tomlin, which is the wrong choice, but you're going to ride with him, is you got to make little fixes and hope that it works out, because you're not going to fix it all this year. The Steelers are not going to be Super Bowl contenders next year. No way.
We talked to Tomlin. He basically said, who cares? I mean, he didn't say that, but he basically said nothing's going to change. Just talked to Rooney. He basically said nothing's going to change. Okay, fine. You stick your head in the sand. You do that anytime you want. You know who's not going to put up with that? The fans, the people that go to the games. You think they're going to boo like crazy? And you know what's a real easy thing to say? Fire Tomlin.
Oh yeah, it's a good cadence.
Yeah, exactly. It rolls right off the tongue. So you could put your head in the sand, and you could say, the emperor has no clothes. You could say all is well and everything is fine, but we know it's not. And if it's the same crap over and over again, we're gonna turn, and it could get ugly.
That's my only hope.
Yeah.
That way you can keep going with this rebuild that they are in. It's a rebuild, whether you want to admit to that or not, and get rid of Mike Tomlin, because rebuild's not going to go right if he's at the helm. He's the wrong contractor.
Just give us hope. Just this, we need hope. So we'll see. Hey, maybe they'll make a bunch of changes. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. Maybe things will be better. I think Omar Khan, he's still learning on the job. And he had a huge misstep last year with the wide receivers.
Big.
Hopefully he learns from that. So we'll see.
Yep. Joe, real quick before we log off here, I do want to give a shout out to my uncle Rocco, who passed away this past week. He was a massive Steelers fan. Went down, and I was honored enough to speak some words at his funeral and do some readings and stuff. And it's a great family. And, you're down at Cocoa Beach, and there's Steeler stuff everywhere, and it's just, that's part of being the Steeler fan base. You're not going to find outside of maybe the Browns or some New York teams, you're not going to find a lot of stuff like that. But I mean, there was terrible towels, and his grandson who gave the eulogy wore his Steelers tie. That he had, one of the Steelers ties he had.
Wow.
So, that's that. And then the other thing tomorrow always marks an anniversary. And we were at the Kennedy Space Center. Was the anniversary of the Challenger disaster. And I always remember that. I think a lot of people talk about that. I do remember Reagan being shot. But the Challenger disaster was the thing I remember. We had it in the TV. Remember the TV that's, got the ratchet strap on it. It was on the wheel cart that they would wheel in the room.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember watching that. I remember Mr. Mern, who's my third grade teacher, writing, tragedy. And he got emotional. He was crying, because everyone, us kids at that time were tuned in because Kristen McAuliffe, the teacher, the whole aspect.
The first teacher.
In space.
She wasn't the first woman in space.
No, that was Sally Ride.
But she was the first teacher that's supposed to go in space.
But,
and the reason why that disaster happened was because it was too cold, and they didn't factor for the cold weather in Florida, and that's why we were that whatever the cold weather that was happening in Pittsburgh also, because we had that day off. I remember.
Yes.
I remember it. I don't remember what I had for breakfast this morning, but I remember the Challenger disaster like it was yesterday. It was around 11 o'clock in the morning, somewhere around there, because I was always watching The Price is Right. And that come on, and Challenger go with throttle up, and it exploded, and such a shame, such a tragedy.
Yeah, it really was. So I just want to shout out to remember them and their families, and they had a pretty nice moving tribute at the Kennedy Space Center. Highly recommend if you're ever down there to do that. We did that on Monday, and my little boy is pretty interested in seeing all that. So, but yeah, those are just two shout outs, and I thank you for letting me to do that.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for watching, and
a ton of viewers on Facebook here today. Shout out to Tom and Ron and James and Jan and Joe. How about my friend Joe and Wanda Posar out in Arizona tuned in tonight, and how about my mother Linda tuned in tonight. So hi mom.
Oh.
So yeah, great stuff.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everyone. We'll see you.
Thanks, guys.